Good evening, everyone. My name is Saurabh Meena, and today I'll be discussing on the categorization of certain government services, central government services, and we'll be discussing on them. I have categorized them based on certain criterias and parameters, and this is very subjective in nature. But in case if you think that I'm wrong, you may feel free to contact me, and you can write down in the comments below. And since it is very subjective, I'll be dividing it into very broad criterias, and my aim is not to hurt or disrespect any cadre or any person. It's just to promote healthy discussion and help candidates for their better selection in their life. So, moving ahead, this is the broad criteria I've made for ranking of central government services, and these are only generalist services and basically covering UPSC, SSC, and banks, PO, etc., and other some journalist jobs. And so basically, beginning with, I've made certain criterias, and these are the criterias. The first one is the promotion in the service, and for example, like we know that there are some services like IAS, IPS, IFS, where officers get the opportunity to go up to level 17. But normally, if not everyone, normally people are able to reach at least level 15 in those services. And we all know that there are other organized group A services also there within the civil services. And over there also, most of the officers are able to cross level 14 to level 15, at least minimum. That is the minimum which I am speaking. And the second one is regarding the qualities. This includes the training, the initial training which the officers get, and after that, even the in-service trainings which they get during their service tenures. And we all know that the training which the officers who get after clearing the UPSC civil services exam is for 2 years, wherein they get the opportunity for Bharat Darshan and also the study tour and village tour. And get so much exposure during those training periods, and also they have international tour for 15 to 20 days. And each service candidates or each service officers go to a different country. Canada, some go to Singapore, some go to South Korea. Many of them even go to Europe, US, different organizations. They stay over there and they get training, and they learn from the officers of different countries. Just say even IPS officers, they go for training to Israel force, say they do training with them. And IRS officers, they go to Brussels and South Korea, Singapore, and so on. So even we see the banking sector, RBI grade B officers, they get very good training. I was in SBI. Training was very good. The quality of the training was also very good. It was for 2 months initially, and then after every 1 year, the training was for 1 month. So it shows how much attention the organization pays to the officers within their group. So, and even we know that apart from the training, they get various opportunities to learn. For example, that they officers to go on study tour. I know one IRS officer who is very senior to me, and he went to MIT for PhD in economics. He was in income tax department, and there are other officers as well. One of my secretaries in my department, he had studied in UK, and they get excellent opportunities from their organizations. And for training also, I know in Indian Corporate Law Service, it's a very newly added service. Usme bhi the candidates are given training, and in NLU Bangalore, and it's a certificate course they are given in corporate law. So government is spending crores so that there can be good person for the candidates. And third point, yes, we are speaking about exposure. For example, Indian Foreign Service, they get very detailed, very thorough training regarding how they have to speak, how they have to behave with everyone, what they have to do. And apart from that, in SBI also, when I was there, the high quality training was given to the officers. Even in Central Secretariat Service, which is a Group B service, the training was also very good. I went for study tour. I was attached to a village administration in Telangana. There was a village tour, and we stayed over there in the village for 10 days to understand the problems in the village, and to even guide the village administration and to bridge the gap between the administration and the people. So these are very good tools by the organization or the departments to give good amount of exposure to their officers. And the fourth point is the recognition and value addition to society. In this, I would just want to say that we can see in the banks the amount of contribution which the bankers give to the society. That is huge. They help a lot. I mean, right from the opening of the accounts, even after the retirement of the people, they are there to help the common citizen. So the recognition and the value addition is very high, and even the other civil services are there. So there is a good sense of satisfaction because of that. Fifth point is the presence of cadre association. Now, what happens is whenever any employee is there in any service, there are always some professional hazards. Always such scenarios happen, unwanted scenarios happen, and the presence of such associations help the employee in such situations. We all must have come across some news of some honest IAS officer or IPS officer and getting into some kind of trouble. Not just that, but there are good officers in other departments also who end up getting in trouble, sometimes even without of any fault of theirs. So in such situations, when there is an association to help them out, it really helps the employee. And apart from that, in some services, sometimes the reporting officer is of a different cadre, or officer is from different service altogether. Even in such situations, having associations helps the employee and strengthens that organization. And so in some services, I would not like to name them, there is a natural biasness or prejudices, because within the cadre also, because of differences in their mode of selection, for example, between promotees and DR, and sometimes definitely the DR people will be at much higher positions, but at the initial stages, sometimes a DR officer is working below a promotee officer. There could be some kind of issue. So in such situations, we see that those services which have associations are more stronger, and they help the candidates, or they help the employees and officers better. The sixth point is regarding the regular recruitment within the cadre. This is a very important issue, because in banks and in SSC and even by UPSC, the selection happens very frequently. And the fastest is, I think, in RBI. The whole exam tenure is less than 4 months. Whole exam cycle is of less than 4 months, and every year or every maximum 2 to 3 years, they are having a new recruitment, and this helps the organization and the cadre. Because if there is no regular recruitment, then the gap between the predecessor and the successor increases, and because of that increasing gap, so there will be some within the cadre, and this will lead to more reluctance within the organization. And what I feel is like also that the more younger people come in the cadre and service, the more dynamic the organization or the cadre will be. So, for better streamlining and understanding requirements of the cadre, it's very important that there is regular recruitment within the cadre, maximum say 2 years or 3 years. Another very important factor to note is the market value of the employee after 20 years of service. I mean, suppose that an employee quits after 20 years of his service. So what is that skill set he achieves while working in those 20 years, which will help him to survive outside of that organization? Now, for example, I would like to give some examples, like for some officer of Indian Audit and Account Services there, he will be able to sustain it very easily because there is always demands of good officers in other organizations as well. And there are examples of IRS officers also who start consultancy of their own, and the banks are able to join the private banks and different industries. Various many retired IRS are there who are able to contribute to the society. We see many editorials through them. Some even end up becoming the union ministers, and some of them are presently in the union government. There are various IAS officers who I know one very influential IPS officer. He's on YouTube, and he left his job and he joined a private sector. He's earning per annum, and newly formed services like Indian Corporate Law Service. They're also the skills which they acquire while working, they can use it after they have left the organization. So there's an inherent market value of the employee after 20 years of service. And most importantly, after all those 7 top points, I would like to mention the work culture. So work culture is very important. Again, it's a subjective concept. Some may find one service better than the other, and again there can be many criteria for that. Some people want the permanent posting. For them, Central Secretariat service is very good because they will be staying in Delhi their whole life, and I was there. I in that service I found the work culture very good over there, and there are other services like IAS and IPS. Their association and the lobby is so strong that their work culture or their living is totally different than these. So these are the basic criteria and parameters which I've set for categorization. Now, before moving ahead, there is one disclaimer though, that these preferences are subjective in nature. Yes, and they are a broad set of preferences. I have made very broad categories, and I don't mean to disrespect any cadre or service, and it's just to promote healthy discussion. And most importantly, there are always exceptions. This is just a basic. So this categorization I have made into 6: Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Beta 3. For me, based on the parameters which I discussed earlier, the most elite services are IFS, IAS, IPS and Indian Forest Service. They are the best of the lot. The second is the other central services: IRS, Indian Audit and Account Service, Indian Defence Estate Service, Indian Defence Account Service, Indian Civil Account Service, Indian Trade Service, Postal Service, Corporate Law Service, etc. There are others as well. And there can be other services like RBI Grade B officer Grade B officer in sebi, and some managerial post in PSUs as well, because they're giving good attention to their officers' growth. And now these were mostly the Group A positions, and there are some Group B positions as well. Now this I have placed the gazetted Group B services from UPSC in Beta 1, but some may prefer it to be over at second position. It depends from person to person. And then there are beta 2 jobs, like SCC CGL jobs. And in that, a new service was introduced recently, and that was it was in the Department of Indian Accounts, Audit and Accounts Department. It was a 4800 grade pay job. And then there is Central Secretariat Service, inspectors, examiners, etc. And after that, I would place bank POs. Over here also there can be a further differentiation. I think the SBI bank PO could be placed over here after Alpha 3. It could be. But the others bank PO jobs could still be categorized over here only, as per me. So these are the most broad categories as per me, and this is not exhaustive in nature. And in case I missed anything, feel free to comment and correct me. That's all. Thank you very much. Good night.